Indian city of Mumbai endured 4 days of terror at the hands of 10 gunmen.
Fire coming out of the top of the dome of the old Taj Hotel and a huge plume of smoke. Just some time back, we've heard some shots being fired here.
26/11/2008 के दिन मैं मेरे फैमिली के साथ मेरे पापा, मेरे भाई और मैं हम तीनों पूना जाने के लिए वेंड्रा से सीएसटी गए थे। हम भागने की कोशिश की, वैसे कसाब की गोलियां के मेरे राइट पैर में लगी। ये चेहरे पे एक मुस्कुराहट है, ऐसा लग रहा है उसे हम लोगों को मार के खुशी मिल रही है।
ये इंसिडेंट हुआ था जब कॉलेज के हम फ्रेंड्स सब लियोपोल्ड कैफे गए थे। हमें एक बड़ा सा धमाका ऐसे सुनाई दिया, तो हम बहुत डर गए क्योंकि हमें वो गोलियां दिख नहीं रही थी, पर दीवार पे वो लग रही थी, तो वो आवाज आ रहा था।
After killing 11 people at Cafe Leopold, Abu Shoaib and Abu Umar walked to the Taj Hotel.
I was terrified, and you could hear grenades being thrown. I went on to the
Just 3 feet distance. I jumped, screamed and I jumped, and I knew that point of time I'm gonna be dead.
Mumbai was facing an unprecedented attack. Hearing reports of shooting at Kama Hospital, they got into a police with 3 constables heading for the Kama Hospital back gate.
तो डॉक्टर ने बोला कि पेशेंट का अभी डिलीवरी मतलब होने वाली है, उसको लेबर रूम में शिफ्ट करो। जो आवाज़ आ रहा था ग्रेनाइट का, गन का, सब वही टाइम पे गोलीबार बहुत जोर-जोर से आवाज़ है, वही टाइम पेशेंट की डिलीवरी हो गई।
They wanted anyone with British or American passports. So anyone who had a British or American passport, they wanted to know. So I guess they were after foreigners, yeah.
First thing was bomb. They put a bomb. And not even one, it was around 2-3 bombs. And we were in the kitchen, me and one more helper. I was hiding in the storeroom and we were there up till 11:15 next morning. They didn't allow me to go anywhere. They just surrounded me like I was in a cage. And my baby, he started screaming looking at all that.
The magnitude of the Bombay terror attack was significant, not only in terms of the number of casualties and injuries, but also in terms of the impact it had on the city of Mumbai and the country of India as a whole. The attack sparked a wave of fear and anger across the country, and led to increased security measures and counter-terrorism efforts in India and around the world. The attacks targeted several locations. The attackers used firearms, grenades, and explosives to carry out the attacks, which resulted in a total of 166 fatalities and more than 300 injuries. This documentary will focus on the experiences of the victims of the Bombay terror attack and the impact of the attack on their lives. We will explore the theories of victimology and their relevance to this tragic event. Through secondary source of interviews with survivors, family members, and experts that has already played, we will gain a deeper understanding of the human toll of terrorism and the challenges faced by victims in the aftermath of an attack. This documentary will discuss the relationship between terrorism and victimology. Thereafter, theories of victimology will be explored which are applicable to such situation. Impact of victimization of such attacks on victim will be discussed. After that, major policy measures which were taken by the government of India to prevent such future attacks will be analysis. It will also interesting to analyze the victimological aspect behind such policy measures of government of India. Terrorism is a form of violence that intentionally targets civilians with the goal of instilling fear, panic, and chaos in society. Forensic victimology is a field of study that seeks to objectively and comprehensively describe the victim's life and circumstances to gain a better understanding of how they were victimized and their relationship with the offender. It is not focused on restoring victims to their pre-victimization state or assigning blame to them. Instead, it seeks to improve the understanding of the dynamics of the criminal act and the victims themselves. Times in the case of the Bombay terror attack, victimology can help us understand 2 aspects. Times first study of victimology theories in study of terrorism will help us to understanding the complex dynamics involved in victimization, such as the role of the offender, the characteristics of the victim. Secondly, by understanding the experiences of the victims and their families, the impact of the attack on their lives, and the challenges they face in the aftermath of the attack, such as trauma, grief, and financial hardship make us to work towards preventing similar attacks in the future, supporting victims in their recovery and healing, and promoting justice and accountability for the perpetrators of terrorism. These are the major theories of victimology. First is victim precipitation theory. Theory suggests that the behavior of the victim contributes to or precipitates the crime. In the case of the Bombay terror attack, the victim precipitation theory is not applicable. The attack was a premeditated and well-planned act of terrorism carried out by 10 members of the terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba, who arrived in Mumbai by sea and launched a series of coordinated attacks on various targeted locations. The victims of the attack were innocent civilians, including hotel guests and staff, commuters at the railway station, and individuals at the Jewish community center. Their behavior did not contribute to the attack, and they were simply going about their daily lives when they were targeted by the terrorists. According to Mendelssohn typology, victims of Bombay terror attack will fall under the completely innocent victim. They do not exhibit any provocative or contributory behavior prior to the offender's attack. Second is routine activity theory. According to this theory, criminal activity occurs when there is a convergence of a motivated offender, a suitable target, and the absence of a capable guardian. In the case of the Bombay terror attack, the motivated offenders are members of Lashkar-e-Taiba, who were motivated by their extremist beliefs. The suitable targets is the city of Mumbai and various locations of city that they attacked. The absence of capable guardians is lapses in security and the inability of law enforcement agencies to prevent the attacks. Because till that time we recognizes threat from territorial border, not having insight that such attack can become from the coastal line. That absence of capable guardianship gave opportunity to motivated offender to attack on suitable targets. Third is social learning theory. This theory is criminology theory, suggests that people learn behavior through observation and imitation. The attackers in this case may have learned extremist beliefs and violent behavior from their social environment, including their families, friends and peers.
उधर जाने के लिए तुमको किसने तैयार किया? मेरे बाप ने। वो बोलता है कि बेटा देखो हम बहुत गरीब हैं। बाप यानी कि सगा बाप या सगा बाप है। तो बोलता है जैसे ये लोग कमाते खाते हैं ना, तू भी ऐसे कमाए खाएगा और कोई मुश्किल नहीं है। और आपको भी पैसा मिलेगा, हमारी गरीबी दूर हो जाएगी, तो शादी भी हो जाएगा तेरे भाई बहनों की। देख बेटा जैसे ये खाते हैं ना, आराम से रहते हैं, तू भी रहेगा।
Next theory is trauma theory. This theory focuses on the impact of traumatic events on individuals and their family. This may be physical, psychological, and emotional effects. And last is restorative justice theory. The theory emphasizes the importance of repairing harm caused by crime and restoring relationships between victims and offenders. While it may not be possible to apply this theory directly to the Bombay terror attack, it is important to acknowledge the harm caused by the attacks and to support victims and their families in their recovery and healing.
मुझे कसाब की गोली लगी थी 26/11/2008 के दिन, क्योंकि आज मैं ये लॉकडाउन के वजह से मेरे घर में बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत आ चुकी है। सरकार ने मेरे घर पे आके बोल के गए थे कि आपका रहने का घर का व्यवस्था करेंगे, वो अब तक दिया गया नहीं है।
Impact of such victimization. This can be understood in two ways. The primary victimization impact theory suggests that victims of crime may suffer various negative consequences, including physical, emotional, and psychological harm, as well as financial and social consequences. The victims of the attack suffered physical injuries, with many being killed or seriously injured in the bombings and shootings that took place. Additionally, the attack had a significant emotional and psychological impact on the victims and their families, as they were left traumatized by the events of that day. Many of the survivors of the attack suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and other mental health issues, and some struggled to return to their normal lives. The attack also had financial and social consequences for the victims, as many lost their jobs, businesses, or homes as a result of the attack. Secondary victimization is the psychological symptoms experienced from knowing someone who has been victimized or from witnessing someone being victimized are referred to as secondary victimization. It also refers to the additional harm or trauma that can be inflicted upon a victim of a crime by the criminal justice system, social institutions, or society as a whole. One example of secondary victimization was the delay in providing medical care and assistance to the victims, particularly those who were trapped inside the targeted buildings. Additionally, some victims and their families reported experiencing further trauma and distress as a result of the legal process that followed after the attack, including delays, bureaucratic obstacles, and a lack of communication and support from authorities. Secondary victimization can further categorize as affective consequences. Under this, victims of crime may suffer numerous emotional consequences, including post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, depression, anxiety, ANF suicidal thought. Behavioral consequences is terror attack may affect the victim's lifestyle in other ways, especially by causing them to avoid particular place or people. Cognitive consequences is victims will always a fear of terror attack in Bombay city. They're unable to be feel safe in the city. Let's see the what policy measures were taken after the incident. In 2012, the Indian government created the NCTC, a specialized agency that serves as the country's primary counterterrorism agency. The NCTC is responsible for collecting and analyzing intelligence related to terrorism, coordinating operations against terrorist groups, and providing strategic advice to policymakers. Second is amendment under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. UAP. The law allows for preventive detention, expands the definition of terrorism, and provides harsher punishments for terrorist acts. Next is the NatGrid is a network of databases that allows law enforcement and intelligence agencies to share information and track suspicious activity in real time. The system was created after the attack to improve information sharing among various security agencies and enable better coordination in the event of a terrorist attack. Thereafter, the Joint Terrorism Task Force was created to bring together various security agencies to work together on counterterrorism operations. The task force includes representatives from the police, intelligence agencies, and other relevant organizations. And lastly, strengthen maritime security. After the Bombay terror attack, the Indian government also implemented several measures to improve maritime security, including the creation of a dedicated maritime security force, for example 3-layer security force Coastal Police, Coast Guard, and Indian Navy. These forces were primarily responsible for securing the coastal border of India. Other measures is installation of advanced surveillance technologies in seaports and waterways. Now let's understand how this victimological aspects contributed towards in such policy framing. First is victim-centered approach. The government established the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund to provide financial assistance to the victims of the attack and their families. The government also provided medical and psychological assistance to the victims in the after the attack. Second is restorative justice approach. The government ensured that the perpetrators of the attack were brought to justice and prosecuted for their crimes. Like we all know that Kasab were given death sentence. Next is crime prevention through environmental design. The government implemented several measures to enhance security at potential targets, such as transportation hubs and public spaces. For example, the government increased security measures, such as metal detectors and bag screenings, at airports and other transportation hubs. Next is target hardening. The government implemented measures to make potential targets less vulnerable to attack. For example, the government increased the security presence at public spaces, such as markets and tourist attractions. Lastly, community-based approaches. The government engaged with local communities to prevent and respond to terrorism. The government provided training to community members on how to identify and report suspicious activity. The government also encouraged community members to participate in neighborhood watch programs to enhance security in their communities. Also, group of fishermen were given the training for preventing such suspicious activity happens in the coastline. By incorporating these victimology perspectives into policy making, the Government of India was able to better address the needs of victims and reduce the likelihood of future terrorist attacks. I hope you will find this video helpful for understanding of this topic. Thank you.